Hello everyone. Tonight, I'll be narrating 3 new creepy stories that I found on the Creepy Encounters subreddit. So sit back and relax, because tonight, we'll be diving headfirst into their experiences.
These other stories.
I went dancing with some friends and was really drunk by midnight. Unfortunately, this was back when I had little money, and I realized you could only save money by eating very little before going out, and it would take a far fewer drinks to get drunk. So I was so drunk I could barely remember my friend ordering me an Uber home. My phone was dead, of course. I can vaguely recall them helping me into the car and telling me to get home safe, but I don't remember greeting the driver or the first minute or so. But soon after getting in, he asked how my night was and if I smoked. Honestly, I was just thinking about bed at this point, so I sort of just slurred out that I did sometimes. He then offered me a joint, and this is the first moment I got sort of nervous and began paying attention. I tell him something like I'm really tired and I'm just ready to get home. I think he said something about it being an indica-based joint and it made for great sleep. Once again, I say something not exactly like no, but not a yes, which he takes as a yes, I'll take that joint now. Once again, I'm still drunk enough and I can barely see straight or speak clearly. So when he says, okay, well, I have to cancel the ride really quick because I can't give it to you while I'm on the clock, or something to that effect, it takes me a second to realize how dangerous that is. And by the time I start to say something, he has canceled the ride and pulls over. We were just east of a bridge, I think, and it was totally secluded. Some empty parking lots, a closed auto body shop, and no one in sight. It's starting to hit me now that I'm in the car, and not with the same Uber driver but with some stranger. I can't call anyone, and he's trying to give me weed that could have anything in it. For the next minute or so we're pretty quiet. I can't remember if there was any small talk he tried to make because I was beginning to panic. And every time he handed me the joint, I would take fake hits, just breathing it into my mouth and not into my lungs. I felt tired, clumsy, and weak. That kind of drunk where you're almost at the point of nausea, and I knew I couldn't do much if anything to defend myself at that point. I remember vividly being fixated for a moment on the fact I didn't have a pair of keys to defend myself with, as my building used fobs for just about everything and I didn't take my mail key with me. As I'm freaking out, I look up to see if this guy is sort of noticing, and I make eye contact with him in the mirror. He was just staring at me, but I couldn't read his expression. Finally, he says something along the lines of, well, let's get out of here. I tell him I'll just call another Uber to get home, thinking at this point it might even be safer to walk. And he says, no, I still have your address, I'll just take you home. For a moment I was relieved. I guess I wanted to believe him so badly that I would get home safe, so I just believed him. I try to calm myself down, thinking he hadn't actually done anything threatening. Maybe he was just your typical stoner guy and I'm overreacting. At this time, I lived on PSU campus in downtown Portland in the southwest area of the city. He's driving me north on the east side of the river. There are several bridges to our left, and as he keeps moving north, he has several opportunities to take an exit to hop over the river and get me back downtown. He keeps skipping them, and we keep passing bridge after bridge that could get me home. Up in northeast Portland, there are some large industrial areas that could get very isolated at night, and Portland in general is surrounded by lots of forest. So I knew he could have me in a secluded area in really quick. After he passes like the 4th exit for a bridge, pretty sure it was the Broadway Bridge, I've been thinking in my brain for a way to make him actually take me home, and say something to the effect of, hey, my boyfriend is waiting for me at home, which was true, though I said it in a very meek way. My driver says nothing, but he did take the next exit for a bridge and basically hung a giant U-turn that started taking me home. Even as we're on the west side of town heading south, I'm still shaking to have my hand on the door handle, thinking about just hopping out at a red light the closer we get to my apartment. My phone is completely dead, and he honestly still has several chances to hop onto nearby highways and speed out the city. We're getting pretty close to my apartment now, and I'm once again trying to convince myself I'm being paranoid about some stoner that can't even navigate the city. Although a few minutes before I was so scared and I was crying. So once we get about 2 blocks from my apartment, I lie and tell him it's the easiest to stop here and he can let me out. Again, he doesn't say anything but does slow the car. I'm flooded with relief and even feel myself smile, but when I go to open the door it's locked. I try to lift the lock mechanism manually, but it won't budge. I look at him instinctually to see what's up, and he's got his head turned almost fully toward me, shoulders still facing the road, just smiling at me. The worst smile I've ever seen, and it looked so mocking. It just didn't reach his eyes at all. I just started crying more and kept asking him to open the door. I was so freaked out and still very drunk, but thank God he did. I will never forget the sensation of vulnerability. Not just being drunk in his car with no way to contact anyone, but even as I got out of the car, I kept feeling like he would somehow grab the back of my shirt and pull me back in, as silly as that sounds. When I got home, I found out my boyfriend had actually gone out with friends last minute and wasn't even home. He wouldn't have even known till much later if I hadn't got back safe. The next day I convinced myself I was freaking out over nothing, which I realized still could be the case, but in my gut, I had truly felt in danger the night before. This happened quite a while ago when I was home alone with just my dog. After all this, I'm sure what happened was really strange and I have no idea what this man actually wanted. So I was watching TV one night at about 11 p.m. when I heard a car pull up outside and the engine shut off. I figured it was obviously a neighbor, but my nosy dog wanted to have a look and went to the window. He kinda messed up the blinds when he went to look, so I got up to fix them. When I did, I noticed a car parked on the street across from my house and my neighbor's house. I couldn't really make out any details, but it looked like the driver was still sitting in the car. I didn't really think anything of it. I got a drink and went back to watching TV. Quite a while had passed since I fixed the blinds, but I'm not sure how long. I'd guess about 15 to 20 minutes. Out of nowhere, I thought I heard a tapping at the door. Not a knock, it was much lighter and very quiet. My dog had set up to look at the door and I paused the TV when the same tapping then started on the window. I opened the blinds a little and saw a man standing there. I couldn't make out his face properly and he immediately walked back to the door and started tapping at it again. This doesn't sound very frightening and I'm not sure why, but I suddenly had a very awful feeling. I felt absolutely terrified and had no idea why. The tapping at the door never stopped, but something in my head was saying if I opened that door to him, then something really bad would happen. I went upstairs to open a window to ask what he wanted. It felt safer doing this. He said in a really quiet voice he was delivering pizza and told me how much it cost. I felt so stupid for being frightened and I told him I didn't order pizza. I guess he was speaking quietly and knocking lightly so he didn't disturb my neighbors. My dog had followed me upstairs and was letting out this odd growl and bark, which isn't really usual for him. I was trying to shush him when the man downstairs told me he had the correct address and I better get downstairs now and open the door to pay what I owed and collected my food before it got cold. I was really confused because I most definitely didn't order any food and began telling him that again when I noticed he didn't have any pizza. He wasn't carrying anything at all. I told him again that he had the wrong address and he got really angry. He kept telling me to open the door. He was going between angry and sort of trying to persuade me to go back downstairs. I asked him where the pizza was. He said he had a hold of it. It was really dark, but he definitely didn't have anything in his hands. My dog was really making quite a bit of fuss at this point, and the stranger had turned into a broken record. Come downstairs. Open the door. Come downstairs and open the door. All the noise must have alerted my neighbor, who did open his front door, and the man didn't say a word but practically ran across the street to the car that I heard pull up a while ago. He went back to the car empty-handed. I have no idea what he wanted, but he certainly wasn't a delivery driver. It really freaked me out as well that my dog is quite obviously a large breed and the man saw him through the window, but he wasn't deterred at all. It seems even stranger and less random that he actually drove to my house as though he'd planned on showing up. This was 1992. My mother was going through a bad patch in her marriage and chemotherapy for breast cancer. We lived in a very quiet town where residential areas only had small markets. For everything else, including pharmacy and public calls, we had to go through the main market, which was almost 3.5 miles from our house, 1.5 miles from our apartment blocks to main road, and then 2 miles to the market, either by walk or by public transport. My mother, who was going through some tough time given my father's complete disconnect with us, she used to call her brother, my uncle, for advice and catharsis, who lived in another city. For those calls, she had to go to the public call office, PCO, which was run by 2 weird men. The same market had the pharmacy where my mother would buy her medicine. I was 11 and my older sister was 17. One evening, my mother along with my sister went to the PCO to talk to my uncle. I don't remember why, but I think my father asked her to leave the house and she wanted to discuss her options. She was in distress and didn't realize it was already late when she finished the call. The market was closed, so was the public transport. My mom and sister paid the bill and started their walk home on the path next to the main road. The 2 PCO owners closed the PCO and started following them. One on foot right behind them trying to offer a ride, and the other on bicycle next to them on the deserted main road. My mother strictly refused, held my sister's hand tightly, and started walking as fast as she could when a white van appeared on the service road and started driving slowly next to them. The PCO guys had already arranged a ride with some really bad intentions and didn't seem to go away. They were probably waiting for them to get off the main road to strike. On the next turn, 2 men came from the opposite side of the footpath. To my mother's relief, it was the pharmacist and his friend who were returning to pick his car from his shop's parking after a walk. They saw the men in the van and immediately realized what was going on. They stopped, said hello, and asked if she needed help. They agreed to walk them home. The PCO men fled upon seeing the guys. The kind pharmacist saw my mother and sister to the safety of our house. My mother never went to that PCO again. Well guys, that was it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, consider liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I have a Patreon in the description, so if you wish to support me on there, it's greatly appreciated. I will also be live streaming this Friday with another YouTuber, so stay tuned for that. As always guys, have a nice day.